If what we think about addiction is right, what should be happening to all these people who are being given diamorphine in hospital? Some of them should be becoming addicts. This has been studied very carefully. It virtually never happens.
Why?
And well, this is the question I asked myself, right? I said, this is so weird. I frankly didn't believe it. I kept looking at the scientific evidence. It's very clear. And I only really began to understand it when I went to Vancouver. I spent a lot of time in Vancouver and got to know an incredible man called Bruce Alexander, who's a professor of psychology. And Professor Alexander explained to me this theory we have about chemical hooks. So we've got to punish the addicts and we've got to get rid of the drugs because they'll take people over. Comes from a series of experiments that were done earlier in the 20th century. They're really simple experiments. We could do them in this studio if we were feeling a bit sadistic. You take a rat and you put it in a cage and you give it 2 water bottles. One is just water and the other is water laced with either heroin or cocaine. If you do that, the rat will almost always prefer the drugged water and almost always kill itself. So there you go, that's our story, right?
But that's an open and shut case. That's what they thought. Is that the case? Is that true?
Well, in the 70s, Professor Alexander came along and looked at these experiments and said, well, hang on a minute. We put the rat alone in an empty cage where it's got nothing to do except use these drugs. Let's do this differently. So he built a cage that he called Rat Park, which is basically like heaven for rats, right? They've got loads of cheese, they can have loads of sex, they've got coloured balls, which apparently rats love.
And sounds perfect.
Exactly, coloured balls, what more could you want? And they've got both the water bottles, the normal water, and the drugged water. But this is the fascinating thing. In Rat Park, they don't like the drugged water. They almost never use it. None of them ever use it compulsively. None of them ever overdose. Now, there's a lot of human examples I can give if you want, but what this tells us is when they have bad lives, where they have nothing that gives their life meaning, they will be very likely to compulsively use drugs. When they have good lives, they're extremely unlikely to compulsively use drugs. The opposite of addiction is not sobriety, the opposite of addiction is connection.